It's still saying declined, ma'am.
That can't be right, May. There's thousands in there.
If you pay for your groceries, your gas, or your prescriptions with a debit card, there is a deadline attached to that card. And almost no one has ever told you it exists. Diane found out about it on a Tuesday afternoon. She's 64, lives just outside Columbus, Ohio, and she's careful with money. The kind of careful that comes from raising 2 kids on one income and never once bouncing a check. She doesn't check her bank account every day. She never felt she needed to. She'd sit down with her statements every few months, tick through them, and everything always matched. So when she finally opened her checking account online that afternoon and saw 4 charges she didn't recognize, a little over $1,900 spread across 3 weeks, her first feeling wasn't panic. It was relief, because she assumed what most of us assume. The bank will fix this. That's what the fraud protection is for. She called them right away, calm, organized, account number ready. And the woman on the phone was polite, genuinely kind about it. She pulled up the account, went quiet for a moment, and then said the thing Diane still repeats to her sister now, months later. She said, "I'm so sorry, but the first of these charges showed up on a statement we sent 63 days ago. Because it's past 60 days, I'm not able to guarantee we can return that money to you." 63 days. Diane was 3 days late, not late paying anything, late noticing. And here's what she didn't know, sitting at her kitchen table with the phone in her hand. That wasn't the bank being difficult. It wasn't a mistake she could argue her way out of or a manager she could ask for. Federal law, the actual rule that governs that debit card, says that after a certain point, the bank does not have to give the money back. The clock had been running the whole time. She just never knew it had started. So before this is over, you're going to know exactly which day that protection disappears. The day the clock starts, not the day you think it does. You're going to know why reporting fraud on time still might not get your money back the way you'd expect. And you're going to know the one quiet change, one swap most people make in about 5 minutes that takes this entire risk off the table. Stay with me, because the timing of all this is the part that catches good, careful people off guard. Most people carry 2 cards in their wallet that look almost identical, a debit card and a credit card. Same size, same chip, same tap to pay, same logo in the corner, Visa, MasterCard. You hand either one to the cashier, and the transaction feels exactly the same. For years, that similarity has told your brain a quiet lie, that these 2 cards protect you the same way. They don't. And the gap between them isn't small, and it isn't an accident. It's written into 2 completely separate federal laws. When you use a credit card, you're spending the bank's money. When you use a debit card, you're spending yours. The transaction reaches straight into your checking account and pulls the cash out in real time. That difference sounds obvious. Everybody knows debit comes out of your account, but almost nobody has thought through what it means when something goes wrong. Because when fraud hits a credit card, the fight is over money you never paid yet. The charge sits on a balance. You dispute it, and while everyone sorts it out, your actual dollars are still in your account, untouched. When fraud hits a debit card, the money is already gone. It left your account the moment the charge cleared. Now, you're not disputing a bill. You're trying to claw back cash that has already walked out the door. And the law that governs that clawback is a different, older, weaker law than the one protecting your credit card. The credit card runs under something called the Fair Credit Billing Act. The debit card runs under the Electronic Fund Transfer Act, 2 different rule books written years apart, and they do not offer you the same deal. Most people assume the protection follows the card or follows the brand on the front. It doesn't. It follows which type of account the money comes from. And that single fact decides whether you're looking at a $50 problem or a drained account. If you've spent your life reaching for the debit card first because it felt more responsible, spending money you actually have, no interest, no debt, I want you to know that instinct made complete sense. It's how a lot of careful people were raised to think about money. It just happens to be the exact instinct these 2 laws punish. So, which day does the clock start? That's where the trap Diane fell into actually lives. And it's not the day you'd guess. Before we get into it, if you've ever assumed your debit card and your credit card protect you the same way, do me a favor and drop the word "same" in the comments. I want to see how many of us were told the same thing. Then let's walk through the timeline, because the calendar is the whole game here. So let's build the timeline the way the law actually reads it, because the whole thing turns on one detail almost everyone gets wrong. Under the Electronic Fund Transfer Act, your protection on a stolen or misused debit card isn't one flat rule. It's a staircase, 3 steps, and each step down costs you more. Step 1. If you report the fraud within 2 business days of learning your card or your card number was compromised, the most you can be held responsible for is $50. That's the top of the staircase, $50, no matter how much was taken. Report it fast, and you're in the safest place the law allows. Step 2. If you miss that 2-day window, but you still report within 60 days of the statement that shows the fraud, your maximum liability jumps from $50 to $500. Same fraud, same stolen card, but the delay alone multiplied what you can lose by 10. You did report it, you just didn't report it in the first 48 hours. And then there's step 3, the bottom of the staircase, and this is the one that took Diane's money. If a fraudulent charge appears on your statement and you don't report it within 60 days of that statement being sent, the law stops protecting the money taken after that point entirely. Not capped at $500, not capped at anything. The bank is no longer required to give it back. Whatever the thief pulls out after that window closes can legally be yours to eat. Now, here's the detail that catches careful people, the one I promised you at the start. That 60-day clock does not start the day you notice the fraud. It starts the day the bank sends the statement showing the charge, whether you open that statement or not. Read that again in your own life. If you're someone who lets statements pile up and reviews them every quarter, the way Diane did, the way a lot of us were taught was perfectly responsible, the clock has been ticking the entire time those statements sat unopened. Diane didn't notice on day 63. Day 63 is when she called. The fraud had been sitting on a statement that went out 63 days earlier, and the law measures from the statement, not from the moment your stomach drops. She wasn't careless. She was doing exactly what her whole generation was told to do. Keep your records, check them regularly. It's just that regularly and within 60 days of every single statement are not the same promise, and no one ever drew the line for her. Let me clear one thing out of the way, because it's the first place people's minds go. You might be thinking, well, that's on her. Maybe she wrote her PIN down. Maybe she was loose with the card. It doesn't matter. The law is explicit on this. Your own carelessness, writing your PIN on the card, leaving it where someone found it, cannot legally be used to raise your liability above those limits. The staircase is set by one thing and one thing only: how fast you reported, not how the thief got in. So don't let anyone, including yourself, turn this into a story about you being foolish. The only variable the law cares about is the calendar, which raises the obvious question, the comfortable assumption most people are holding right now. If you just report it in time, you're fine. Your money comes back. The system works. Hold on to that thought, because it's about to spring the second half of this trap, and it catches people who did everything right and reported on the very first day. If you've got a moment, tell me in the comments how often you actually sit down and go through your bank statements, monthly, quarterly, or honestly, only when something feels off. No judgment. I think a lot of us are about to recognize ourselves in the answer. So say you do everything right. You check your account the same morning the fraud hits. You call the bank inside the 2-day window. You're at the top of that staircase. $50 cap, best position the law offers. Your money comes flying back that afternoon, right? No. And this is the part that surprises even the careful ones. When you report an unauthorized charge on a debit card, the bank doesn't just hand the money back and sort it out later. It opens an investigation, and under the same federal rule, that bank is allowed to take up to 10 business days to look into it before it has to do anything at all. 10 business days. That's 2 full weeks on the calendar once you count the weekends. For certain transactions, the ones that started out of state or overseas, that window stretches even longer. Now think about what 10 business days means when the money in question already left your checking account. Because it's a debit card, the cash is gone from your balance right now, today, while the investigation runs. That's not a bill sitting unpaid. That's your actual money, sitting on the other side of a 2-week wait, and your life doesn't pause for 2 weeks. Your mortgage payment still drafts on the 1st, your electric bill, your car insurance, your Medicare supplement premium, all of them still pull from that same account on their own schedule, indifferent to the fact that a thief got there first and the bank hasn't finished its paperwork. So the fraud isn't the only hit. The freeze behind it can bounce your rent, decline your prescription at the counter, trigger overdraft fees on payments you made in good faith. One stolen number, and a whole row of dominoes starts tipping, not because you did anything wrong, but because the cash to catch them is locked in limbo. Now, the law does soften this a little, and I want to be fair about it. If that investigation runs past 10 business days, the bank is generally required to put the money back into your account provisionally, temporarily, while it keeps digging. So, you're not always waiting the full stretch, but read the word provisionally closely. That's money handed back on the condition that the bank might reclaim it if it decides, in the end, the charge was yours after all. It is not the same as your money simply being safe where it belongs. It's a loan of your own cash with a question mark attached. Compare that to what happens when the same fraud lands on a credit card. The charge shows up on a balance you haven't paid. You dispute it. And while the credit card company investigates, you are out nothing. $0 have left your pocket. Your rent still clears. Your prescriptions still fill. Your life keeps running. Because the disputed money was never yours in the first place. It was the bank's. You're arguing over their money on your timeline, with your own cash sitting safe and untouched the entire time. That is the difference the cashier never sees when you tap either card. Same machine, same 2 seconds, and 2 completely different outcomes waiting behind them if something goes wrong. So we've now watched the debit card fail you twice, once on the calendar with that 60-day cliff, and once on the cash flow with a freeze that hits even when you do everything right, which brings us to the card sitting right next to it in your wallet, and to a question most people have exactly backwards. Because if you've spent years believing the credit card is the dangerous one, the reckless one, the card to be careful with, the law is about to tell you something that turns that belief completely inside out. For most of your life, the credit card has worn the black hat. It's the one with the warnings attached. The interest, the debt, the balance that grows in the dark if you're not careful. And the debit card got sold to you as the responsible choice. Spend what you have. Owe no one. A lot of good, disciplined people made debit their default for exactly that reason, and I understand it completely. But when it comes to fraud, to the moment a stranger gets hold of your number, that whole picture flips over. Start with the liability, the same staircase we climbed for debit, except now watch how differently it's built. On a credit card, your maximum liability for unauthorized charges is $50. Flat. That's it. Not $50 if you're quick and $500 if you're slow and everything if you're late. Just 50, full stop. It does not matter whether you catch the fraud in 2 days or 59. The cap doesn't move. There's no cliff at day 60. There's no bottom step where the protection falls away. The staircase that can cost you your whole balance on a debit card simply does not exist on the credit side. And in practice, it's usually better than that 50. Most major credit card issuers advertise zero liability policies, meaning for genuine fraud, reported reasonably, your actual out-of-pocket is nothing. Now, I'll be straight with you. That zero liability promise is a policy from the card networks, not a line in the federal law, and it can carry conditions, but the $50 ceiling underneath it, that one is the law, and it doesn't erode with time the way the debit rule does. Then there's the piece almost no one knows about, and it's the part that genuinely changes the balance of power. On a credit card, if you tell the issuer a charge wasn't yours, the burden of proof is on them. Federal law puts it there. If the card company wants to hold you responsible, they have to prove the charge was authorized, that it was really you. You don't have to prove your innocence, they have to prove your guilt. Picture what that means at a kitchen table with a disputed charge in front of you. You are not the one begging to be believed. The company is the one that has to make its case. Set that beside the debit card. There, the money's already gone, the clock's running against you, and you're the one calling to explain yourself under a deadline you didn't know existed. Same wallet, same brand on the front, same tap at the register, but one card makes you the plaintiff chasing your own money, and the other makes the bank prove its case while your cash sits safe. For someone on a fixed income, where one frozen account misses a mortgage payment or a prescription, that difference is the whole ballgame. So if you've spent years treating the credit card as the thing to be wary of, and the debit card as the safe, grown-up choice, I don't want you to feel foolish about it. That's genuinely how most of us were raised to see it. But for the specific problem of fraud, the instinct is upside down. The card that felt reckless is the one that shields your savings. The card that felt responsible is the one that exposes them, which leaves one real question, and it's the useful one. Knowing all this, what do you actually do differently on Monday morning? Because the fix here isn't complicated, and it isn't cancel your debit card and live in fear. It's a handful of small, boring 5-minute changes. And they take this entire risk we've been describing and quietly set it aside. Let me walk you through exactly what they are. So here's what you actually do. None of it requires cutting up a card, and none of it requires becoming the kind of person who logs into their bank at midnight. It's 3 quiet changes. First, and this is the big one, for your everyday spending, groceries, gas, online orders, the restaurant, the pharmacy, use a credit card instead of the debit card and pay it off in full every month. That last part matters, so let me be plain about it. This only works in your favor if you clear the balance each month, so you never pay a cent of interest. Done that way, you get every protection we just talked about: the flat $50 cap, the zero liability policies, the burden of proof sitting on the bank. While your actual checking account, the one your mortgage and your bills pull from, stays walled off from the whole mess. The credit card becomes a shield that sits between a thief and your real money. If someone steals that number, they're stealing the bank's money, and the bank can fight about it while your savings never move. Now, I know some of you use a debit card precisely because you don't trust yourself with credit, because a card that spends real money keeps you honest. I respect that completely. It's a discipline a lot of people would be better off for having. If that's you, hear this next part, because it's built for you. Second change. If you're going to keep using that debit card, don't run it off the account that holds your money. Open a second, separate checking account. Most banks let you do this for free. And keep only a small working amount in it. A few $100s, whatever covers your week. Attach the debit card to that account and that account only. Your Social Security deposit, your pension, your real savings. Those live in a different account that has no card attached to it at all. Now, if that debit card ever gets compromised, the thief can only reach the little working balance. The bulk of your money was never on the other end of that card to begin with. You've turned a doorway into your entire account, into a doorway into a closet. Third, and this one takes about 90 seconds, turn on real-time transaction alerts. Every major bank and card app offers them now. You set it so that every time the card is used, or every time a charge over a certain amount goes through, your phone pings you. This is the piece that diffuses the 60-day time bomb entirely. Remember, the whole trap on the debit side was the clock running while statements sat unopened. With alerts on, you're not waiting for a statement at all. You find out the moment a charge you don't recognize happens, which drops you right back to the top of that staircase, reporting inside 2 business days at the $50 cap or better. The deadline stops being a threat the second you're watching in real time instead of in hindsight. That's the whole fix. Move everyday spending to a credit card you pay off monthly. Wall your real money off from any card by using a small separate account for debit. And switch on the alerts so the clock can never run without you knowing. 3 changes, maybe 15 minutes total, and every single risk we walked through today, the cliff, the freeze, the burden falling on you, quietly stops being your problem. If this is useful, Do one thing for me. Send it to one person you care about who still swipes a debit card for everything. A brother, a neighbor, someone from church. This is the kind of thing nobody thinks to mention until the afternoon it goes wrong. And by then, the calendar's already moving. You could save someone their whole account balance with a single text. Think back to Diane for a second. At her kitchen table in Columbus, 3 days passed, a deadline she never knew was counting down. None of it was about intelligence or carefulness. She kept her records. She called the same day she saw the charges. The one thing she didn't have was this: the knowledge that the card she trusted most ran on the weakest set of rules, with a clock she couldn't see. Any one of the 3 changes we just covered would have handed her a different afternoon. She just never got told, the way most people never get told, until it's the story they're explaining to their sister months later. So now you know. Not out of fear. This was never about being afraid of your own wallet. It's about knowing which rules you're actually playing by so you can move yourself onto the stronger side of them on a calm Tuesday instead of learning they exist on the worst one. Quick note, and I mean it plainly. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not your financial advisor. This is education, not personal advice. Your bank's own policies and your situation matter, so treat this as the briefing that helps you ask the right questions. If it gave you one thing worth acting on, the like and the subscribe genuinely help this reach more people our age who were never told any of this either. Take the 15 minutes this week, then don't think about it again. You'll have stepped off the staircase before the clock ever had a chance to start.